Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. 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 Testing, testing. Testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, there we go. I believe I have got this working then. That's nice. Okay. Good, good, good. let's see about getting started. Grab an example of underlighting. So it'd be kind of fun to change that up. Chrome, are you just not going to open? Okay, so we can get kind of. Okay. Hey, Bala. Yeah. Okay, images. Ooh. Ooh, yes. Yes, split lighting. In different colors. Yes, that'll be beautiful. Okay, got some ideas for lighting. Okay, close it back down. Perfect. Okay. That right there. That right there. And that one up there. Okay. Actually, let's see that. And do a different way. no. View. Nope. Okay. Alrighty, so time to think about how I want this to come together. So let's figure out lighting first. So okay, if oh, and then I need a reference of the actual character. There we go. Okay. So it has shadow in there. Definitely not as much emphasis down here, a little bit darker. Nice and dark in here. Darken up the jaw. Okay, and then my highlights. As much there. Horns would catch some. And this whole side's brighter. And we get kind of a fun silhouette to that. Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay. But yeah, as I talked to the ether, it's kind of weird coming back to being able to do art after really kind of a long time without. I mean, part of it, has just been the healing process of trying to recover from being rear-ended, which did a lot more damage than I was expecting. But then again, I've never been super healthy, so it just took a long time to try to get my body to recover from all of that. And my shoulders definitely have never been really great. Oh, he has like impala horns, doesn't he? I have to look that up really quick. It's one thing other character that I didn't have impala horns. Okay. That basically makes sense then. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I think one of the biggest things for me has just been like trying to figure out the difference between, am I not doing art because I'm suffering from depression, which happens all the time? Am I not doing art because it's physically painful, which definitely happened after the car crash? There was a lot of fun stuff of just trying to figure out, like, why do I have no motivation? Why is all of it so frustrating? But definitely glad to be in a healthier state and finally to be able to get back to doing art that I can really just enjoy, which is a blessing. I mean, completely unrelated, but it also definitely takes a lot of time to just figure out and like almost get over my own self and my own insecurities to finally just do the stinking art. But that's always been true for me. So lock that layer so I don't accidentally paint on it. Good. Okay. Actually, really quick, let's erase the shading lines that I've started. Just because that's not really going to be useful anymore because I changed the lighting. Okay. And there we go. And lock that back up. Okay. So let's see. Let's break this brighter in the back. Let's try to figure out. Okay. Now, think about where I want the brightest points on his face. So, lighting coming around the nose. Lighting up here is going to be brighter. Lighting over this side. some Spotify, that's what I need. Because it is quiet. Let's do... I'm not sure why it's not playing there. Oh well. Okay, no music. Figure that out later. Okay, so... Oh, I did get some on that level. Always happens. Okay. Alrighty, lock that back down. Okay. It's kind of interesting now, like having been away from really doing much of any painting for kind of a couple months now. It's kind of freeing to just come back into it and be like, hey, I can try new stuff. I can figure out what styles and what ways of painting are gonna work. I mean, you know, obviously I already have some stuff. I already have certain styles of painting and whatnot that I do and that I enjoy from, you know, all the painting that I have done. But it's always great to find new ways. And I know one of the things that I've always had an issue with is it's just taking too long. I tend to be really slow with painting. Most of my portraits and stuff take like 15 to 20 hours, which just feels really slow to me. Maybe it's not slow for other people. But also just if I can get to the point where I can paint for more hours during the day and paint more reliably, then, you know, maybe, sir, and that would be my cat walking over my keyboard and deleting all the layers. Is that what you're doing, sir? You gonna get off my keyboard? Go on, Valhalla. Go on. Off the keyboard. Good boy. It's a good reminder to periodically save while you work, so that if your cat accidentally walked over your keyboard and did so many things that it filled up your history, you wouldn't suddenly be stuck without any art. Which, not saying that that's happened to me before, but it's totally happened to me before. So, just a word of caution to everybody to make sure you save as you go along. Always wise. Wise, wise, wise. But yeah, one of the things that I've definitely found about myself is, besides just taking a long time to do painting and whatnot, is that I want to focus in on details way too fast, which does nobody any good. You don't want to get into the details section of a painting too early, or it will take almost exponentially longer. And especially for the way that I like to do detailing, and I love just getting lost in all of that. It can really slow down a painting, especially in the early stages when you're still really, you should just be roughing stuff out. You should be kind of finding the composition and the lighting and not worrying as much about straight up how it looks and that in the early stages it's always better to be like, hey, does this read well? If I look at it, you know, as a thumbnail, can I tell what it is? Is the contrast going to be right? Does the lighting make sense? One of my friends' favorite jokes about my art for years and years is she would, no, sir, no, not on the keyboard. Okay, clearly I'm just gonna need to unplug the keyboard because he's just gonna keep going back there for now. Okay, there we go. Alright, now we have completely unplugged the keyboard, which is much safer than having him just wander around. Okay. It's not like I need the keyboard at the moment anyways, because I have hotkeys. Yay! And everyone was excited about hotkeys. Okay. So if we flip this, we flip our canvas. Whoops, no, the whole canvas, not just the layer. Image, there we go. Flip horizontal. So, mostly makes sense. This eye over here, I think needs to come in a tiny bit. I don't think that's quite the right placement. So let's, oh, and now I get to plug my keyboard back in so I can actually use my buttons. Isn't that just how it is? All right, just fall asleep on the snake tank. Just fall asleep. Don't keep walking over my keyboard. Okay. Try to line that up. Okay, deselect. That feels better. Okay, so if I flip it back again. Yes, okay, that's much better. So yeah, always the fun part of making sure that the anatomy is right before you put a whole bunch of hours into the painting and then realize that you had stuff in completely the wrong areas. I've done that plenty of times. Although, okay, so super awesome trick for anybody who has Photoshop. I'm trying to remember if they added the tool in the current Photoshop CC, or if it was in any of the previous models. But under the filter, there is the liquefy tool, which is incredible for, you can select different types of tools, and the way that I like to think of it is it's sculpture for pixels, if that makes any sense, because you literally move the pixels as a whole and you can like sculpt with it. So it's really, really handy if you've been painting and there's just an aspect, maybe like the edge of their eye is a little too low, or you know, maybe the nose isn't quite the right line. Like maybe you did it straight and then you realize that this portrait or this character is supposed to have a crooked nose. Like maybe they played rugby and they blasted that nose a couple times, you know. And let's take a moment to just appreciate all human beings who have beautiful cheekbones. I definitely find all cheekbones attractive, whether you can see them very prominently, whether they're little hidden cheekbones. Like, always makes me think of the joke when the Pride and Prejudice, the version with Keira Knightley, came out, and people were like, what did she do with her cheekbones? Are they sprinkled with magic dust? How are they so perfect? But yeah, her cheekbones are always an inspiration. But let's normalize guys having like really good highlighted cheekbones and contouring. Can we just normalize everyone wearing makeup if they want to? Like, not that they have to, but like if somebody wants to, they should totally just be straight up normal to do that if they so choose. Sorry, I spend too much time around my parents and my very conservative family as a whole, and then I just need a place to like spew all of my very progressive liberal ideas. Because let's be honest, you know, I feel like a lot of our generation definitely is more on the liberal side, which I think is great. Let's get some lighting down. Lighten this up. Not too light though. Okay. Like that. Okay. And then that's looking better. A little bit darker. Oh, so good. So good. Okay, now we darken up in the center of his ears and his edges. We'll have to figure out that anatomy and how I want to do it, but for right now, just give it some go. Oh, and then his hair. Let's pick a shade for, where's that? Haha. Okay. Look at that while I think about his hair. So let's flip the canvas again. Okay, let's get some darks in for some of these larger sections of shadow. But yeah, I've always found that as long as you're doing the initial setup and like the rough in section properly, you can get a piece that'll look pretty darn good, pretty realistic in a relatively short period of time. And at least for the way that I work and my form of realism and whatnot, you know, or stylized realism, depending on what the commissioner wants. Definitely, I've had paintings where within about an hour and a half, you could tell who it was, you could tell what it was supposed to be. Like it looked very readable, and it, you know, presented well. And then, so yeah, think about that. Hour and a half, you're like, yes, this is good. I'm pretty sold on this overall concept, and I think this is gonna work. And then the next, you know, 14 to 20 hours is honestly just detail and refining in my particular style of painting, which I always find is kind of hilarious. And this character has kind of a, yeah, he's got kind of a steely blue hair, so pretty on point with the reference. I like that. Okay. So we figure out some of these strands. So one of the things that I have definitely been trying to play around with more as I set up the piece is like this brush where it has a lot of texture, rather than roughing in with a solid brush or like a round brush. Now again, that's because what I eventually want to look for is I want to have a really diffuse skin tone texture where skin is actually partially translucent, and light goes through your skin and actually will almost, I want to say refract. I think it's refract is the correct word. But under your skin through the other layers and then come back out with when I was doing like 3D animation in college, um, you would call that actual scattering, and you had like there was a I want to say it's subconjunctivular, but I don't think it is. But it's a subdermal scattering. That's what it is. And so you actually have to do special filters and layers of lighting effects to get that realistic way that light goes through skin. So that's really interesting. And so when you're painting, if you're looking for realism, you want to remember that skin has its own texture. And depending on if you're going for a stylized realism, if you're going for, um, a hyper photorealistic realism, whether you're going for maybe like a lot of the game art that we see today has that nice realism inspired, but it definitely has the kind of airbrush finish polish to it. Um, they're gonna have less skin texture because they want that cleaner look to it. So it really just depends on what particular style you're going for. All right, so we got that just kind of roughed in. See, so I can already take away the line art and we can see how he's starting to come into place. And again, that's always a really important thing of look at it, make sure that it reads well with, you know, really limited information. It should still read well. Um, and let's get, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a picture of impala horns. And impalas do have horns. They don't have antlers. Difference being that they actually grow from the skull and are connected. They have like a little bone spur that kind of starts it, whereas antlers are grown from, it's either pedicle or pedicle, and it's actually a floating, it floats right above the skull, and those are shed every year. So, science. Sorry, ungulates are my favorite group of animals ever, so I love studying about them. Okay, so let's see here. So, no, go back. I wanted to look, I wanted to get a good, a little bit shorter. Okay, let's take just a short moment to appreciate the amazingness of webs getting stuck in horns. Like, it makes me so happy. Okay, we've appreciated it. Now we can move on. So they want a recurve for his horns to go back out. Where's the good? Some of these are just too long. Let's see. I feel like that's we'd recurve a little bit more, but yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so open image in new tab. We will save that in there. Okay, and close that. Do we want any others? I like the knobbiness on that one, so we'll grab that one too. Okay. And another just like personal view on art that I have is that yes, work from references, look at things in real life, paint from real life, paint from references based on real life. If you need a pose, pose it yourself, take a picture, have a friend take a picture, look online, see if you can find a reference that is in keeping with what you need. Like one of the things that always made me super annoyed was when other people um, would get high and mighty about like, oh, you're using a photo reference and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm using a photo reference. Our brains are incredible at remembering the the way that things come together, especially like faces and hands. Our brains are so geared into paying attention to both faces and hands for forms of communication that if it's wrong, if you get into the uncanny valley where you're close enough that it looks, realistic to an extent, but you've gotten the shape wrong or the way that something, moves or the light that hits it, your brain will get kind of squidged out. And it's totally fine to draw completely from imagination, to draw things that have never existed before. So obviously, um, there's no reference for you to use. Um, that's totally fine. But never, in my opinion, never let anybody tell you that you are doing it wrong in wanting to use photo references, in wanting to have that extra surety that comes from, yes, I've looked up, I've referenced what I'm basing this fantasy off of, because that's a really, it's a powerful thing to be able to have that, and it helps you learn how to do it faster in the future. I am by no means um, good at drawing, especially like poses from imagination. Um, I know some comic artists who just blow me away with, they've put in so much time and so much effort, and they've done so many studies from realism that, yeah, when they want to, they can just make a pose and they can make it work and make it beautiful, and I get blown away every time, because they're just killing it. And, good for them. Oh, there's more up here. Darn it. Stop being on the wrong layer. Okay. How much is that there? This is what happens when you paint on the wrong layer. Okay, there we go. So that is always super important. But yeah, I love, and I feel like especially if your style tends towards um, more of a comic style, if it's more exaggerated, you still need to know the basics of what make that work in the real world. Um, if you're doing humanoid forms, know the rules so that you can break them later. Pretty standard art advice on that regard. Um, oh, there's more over here. But yeah, so, and I think the one of the best things that happened for me in recent years was actually my family being um, having religious differences with me, and really taking kind of a hard line stance against some of the things about who I am and how I identify. Because I've always been kind of a people pleaser. I always wanted to make sure that people were going to like me, that I fit in. And when they kind of went overboard with invalidating who I am and what I believe and whatnot, and a whole bunch of just personal stuff, it made me realize, that I spent way too much of my life caring what other people thought about me, about my art, about the methods of how I did things, and all that kind of junk. And in a weird way, it was a huge blessing that they made me realize that I can't do it for other people. I can't look to find that validation elsewhere. Um, and that was a big thing to have to come to terms with. And I'm as painful as it was, I'm really glad that I got that opportunity now rather than, a couple years in the future. Because, I'm 29, I'm going to be 30 next year, and I have so much life to live and so much to explore and experiment with that I used to hold myself back from because of fear of what other people thought. And especially with my art, I, between my depression and just worrying what other people thought and needing that constant validation from others for my art, like I wouldn't do art that I wanted to do, and it got to the point where I didn't have art that I did want to do at all. Like it got to a really dark point. And so, the trials that we go through make us stronger. You're all gonna be like, we're just gonna mute you now, Celeste, because you're on a soapbox. Stop monologuing, Spider-Man. Oh, I love that kid. Okay. Yeah. So that's my mini monologue. Hope it wasn't too much. But yeah. And let's see here. What else can I randomly talk about that nobody's going to be interested in? I could always talk about my cats because I have unlimited resources of energy when it comes to talking about my cats because they're amazing. I have Valhalla, who is a Siberian forest cat. Really, really amazing species. Um, they are partially hypoallergenic. Depending on the individual cat themselves, they produce the protein FELD1 that humans are allergic to in much lower quantities. Um, Now, of course, because they are a pedigreed, um, you know, bred cat, they can be really, really expensive. Um, and I had originally gotten um, my first Siberian because I was still living with my parents, and I really wanted a cat. And my mother is very allergic, um, and so um, it was kind of my way to be able to have a cat that didn't constantly make her sick, which is a great thing. You know, excuse me. You don't want to just go around making the people you live with sick, um, unless you're vindictive or like planning on being one of the stars of like those murder shows. I love those documentaries about like she'd been feeding her family arsenic for 12 years, slowly poisoning them. Me and the Hannibal fandom? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, so this kind of comes up. Get a little bit more to the shadow. Oops, went down again. So yeah, like I said, a lot of it is just roughing in over and over again, trying to figure out, if you're liking the shape and the contours and stuff. Because there's so much. that goes into just the shapes and the planes of a face, and I love watching how other people do it, because it always so interesting to me that like we all have our own styles and techniques. Yeah. Okay. So let's see about giving him a little bit more obvious lower lip. Lightening that up a little bit. Okay. Let's lighten those overlines. Okay. So we're going to need to darken up the section of the upper lip. And then grab a not as dark. Create that upper lip. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, now he's got some lips, which is good. And let's see here. He'll need some white for inside his eyes. And his other eye being. He's winking at you. Always need a sexy wink. Let's be honest. Let's see, what's his eye color supposed to be? Reference. Blue. Looks like bluish. Oops. Yeah. Kind of the same blue as his hair, it looks like. So they're kind of light. Okay. Okay, good. So, darken up the centers, and then put some light into there. There we go. So you got that, and then, okay, let's focus on his cloak for a little bit. We'll roughen that, and then I think we will go over the line art and start painting. All the painting. Okay. Alrighty, so he's got like a silver tip to the edges of, it's like silver work to it, which is cool. This side, all kinds of like that. Okay, and then what else do we have? Looks like there's maybe, sorry, and let's see, that kind of goes there. There's gonna be a this piece linking like that. Okay, so get that piece there, and then there is, we've got, this kind of goes like that. Oh, the joys of 3/4 views. So if you're ever wanting to design character stuff for somebody else to then paint or model or whatever, word to the wise. 3/4 view may look great. It's very dynamic. It gives you a lot of energy to a piece. It is really hard to model or recreate. Um, like trying to look at the shape of this for the mantle to it. Um, I can do it, but it's definitely a fun challenge, shall we say. Um, okay, and then it looks like there's another piece there, and then a very thin one on the inside. And then kind of have its edge like that. Cool, cool. That kind of, okay. So that's a bit of his mantle, and then it looks like there's some buckles and straps and stuff, but I don't think that will really come in. Okay. Actually, let's change this neckline because it's more like that, and then it goes down. So we'll make that a little more pronounced. Okay. Okay, I like that better. And then from the lighting, this inside would get a little bit dark. That would definitely be dark. Some light is going to hit towards the edge there. There's going to be some light on this side. And this is going to be darker in the back here. Okay, it's kind of dark there. Some darkness on there. Darker down there. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so definitely coming together. Okay, let's. Oh, we should. A little bit to lighten up his hand and separate that out from everything else so that I can remember that it's there. Okay. Okay, and then we throw in the kind of center line shadows because we've got double lighting now. And give some light to the back of the finger so that much better. And then it's coming along. Not too bad. A little bit of lighting for the back of the hand. A little bit of shadow too. Okay. Okay. There we go. So that's okay. Toss in a little bit more of his hair back there. And I think we're ready to start painting over. We'll save that again. Okay. Alrighty, so the before we do that, actually, let's, that's in the 70s, that's in the 80s, 50, 70, might play around with that. It's over an 80 over there, but more diffuse. Let's rough in a tiny bit more of the shadow on this side of the face. And then his hairline's going to be right there. Hairline right there. Okay. We can kind of have some hair. Okay. Okay. Good for the moment. Get that bottom of his nose. Okay. Raise that shadow up just a tiny bit. Yeah. Okay. Ready. Time to paint over. Delete that layer. Delete that layer. Yeah. Okay. Now I can go in with a different brush that I like. Lower that a little bit more. And we can start painter in. Okay, so like, so that's a 50. See, reds always get me. Like, my brain interprets, I don't know if it's, like, it just always seems to interpret reds as a much brighter shade than they are. I always have to, like, go back in and lower them back down. Okay. Alrighty. Good, good. Alright. Okay. So now, zoomed in. It's not time to zoom in yet. Okay. One of the other things that will definitely slow you down a ton is if you zoom in too early. That is definitely going to play with how you view things. And let's grab one more reference because I love references. Okay, let's grab a reference of somebody winking. Because when you wink, okay, these people are winking too much. These are like the most over emphatic winks. Like, no, I just want oh, Robert Downey Jr. Okay. I would like a mild wink. Can you like request just a mild wink? So what happens is closing your eyes, winking especially, pulls a bunch of different muscles around the face. Um, so what I'm trying to, well, okay, this guy is still a little too much, but we'll use him. Okay, save image, save in there. Okay, put over our portrait of sexy, handsome, unshaven man in black shirt making silence gesture. I love the way people save names for things. It's great. Okay, where did... There's my winking man. Okay, winking man, you're going to help us figure out... let's rotate you. Image. Flip horizontally. Okay. So that looks like when you're winking, the eye becomes almost pretty much a straight line. So let's try, oh no. Let's try that on this guy. So if we flatten out, oops. So if we flatten out the shape here of the eye, then it looks like the eyebrow itself is going to dip some. Put it upright for a second so we can really work on that. So one of the things that my physical therapist, who is also a painter, which is just absolutely amazing, reminded me is that one of the reasons that I kept screwing up my shoulder with painting is that I would like curl over, because I'm left-handed, so I'm used to like tilting my head to look around where my pen is, so I can actually see the words, and I would curl over until my elbow was higher than my shoulder while painting, which puts a ton of undue stress on your trapezius, your rhomboids, some of the sub-layer muscles underneath that as well. So he's like, well, you're working digitally, but you can rotate the canvas. And my brain got so stuck on this concept. It was like, rotate the canvas. Rotate the canvas. Do I need to like rotate my entire tablet? And then he goes, your art program, you should be able to rotate the canvas. And I was pretty embarrassed that I forgot that because I never use that feature usually. So I'm trying to be better about rotating the canvas rather than contorting my body and raising my elbow super high to try to paint, around a bend. And I'm like, no, I could just rotate it. So another fun little trick to hopefully help other people from having as many ergonomic issues as I've had. I'm always telling my brother, work smarter, not harder, because your body, if you take good care of it, so he's got real nice dark eyebrows, okay, good, will last you a long time. If you are really sucky at taking care of your body, like I am, you will constantly be going to physical therapy every couple years because you've pulled more muscles and you'll have to be prescribed muscle relaxants. And it's not a great thing. Like, would not recommend. Just, like in the grand scheme of what you would like to do with your body, let's all agree that fucking up your shoulders is really not it. You don't want that for your body. Not it at all. Okay. This guy's face vaguely reminds me of the dude who does like the YouTube food tests or whatever they are, where you like taste test things with his other buddy. I'm not a big like YouTube watcher, so outside of I guess, art tutorials. Um, and kitchen nightmares. Oh my goodness. I have definitely recently gotten kind of hooked on kitchen nightmares, and I was not expecting it to be this really sweet, uplifting show that just like makes me feel better about life every time I watch it. Because Gordon Ramsay's just laying into people and yelling at them and all this stuff. And then every time it's like a family dynamic, he's just the sweetest person on earth, and he makes them all realize that you are family and you need to work together and you need to like make this better. It's like he's as much a family therapist as he is a chef, which is kind of hilarious. Not gonna lie. Oh, so another thing to be really careful about with ergonomics is if you are leaning your head in as you are trying to paint. It's definitely something I'm super guilty of. Um, so you always want to try to sit up straight, have your head pulled just a little bit back. A lot of us working for hours and hours in front of the computer with our modern day society, um, and this is as true for, if you're working traditionally as if you're working digitally. You always want to pull your neck just a little bit back because a lot of people have issues now where our necks are actually bending so far forward. My neck actually has a complete forward bend of about 5 degrees. Your neck is supposed to have a recurve, so it's supposed to curve back um, anywhere from like 15 to I think about 25 degrees. So my physical therapist and my chiropractor were like, okay, well, we have more things to add to the list of what we need to fix. Always fun. Um, but yeah, so always remember, especially like if you're just sitting at a computer and stuff, to pull your head just a little bit back, because if you have if you had perfect spinal alignment, your ear your ears would actually make almost a perfect straight line down through your body. And a lot of people today don't have that correct alignment anymore. I certainly don't. So it's something I try to be really mindful of and work towards. So it's one thing I I spent a lot of time trying to find good resources of artists talking about best ergonomic practices um, when I first got injured and stuff. And it was really hard to find good information out there. So I've been kind of debating maybe making some videos eventually and just saying like, hey, here's some good ergonomic practices if you work as a digital artist, specifically, just because that's what I know the most about, um, to really help some other people hopefully not suffer some of the same repetitive stress injuries that I did. Um, and also, like I've said before, not getting in a car crash also really helps you to be able to continue painting. Because, little known fact, car crashes screw up your bones and muscles. Who'd have thunk, right? Like, I definitely did not see that coming. Just like the car that rear-ended me while I was stopped. Didn't see that coming either. Grumble, grumble. Okay. Oh, good, 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 good. Look at this pretty boy. So yeah, this character is a warlock, which I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for warlocks. Not least of which because I play a warlock, who is my pride and joy. She is such a hilarious character. She's great. But yeah, this guy, I guess, from the character description that the commissioner was was given me and stuff. He started out his life as a rogue, and then sacrificed 10 years of his life to come back as a warlock with some new powers and some better mojo. So, don't y'all just wish that you could, kind of just like sacrifice that time, not have to live it, and just like come back with more skills? Maybe it's just, maybe it's just me. I think that'd be pretty sweet overall. But yeah, maybe that is just me. Okay. Yes, apparently he's a pretty flirtatious character, which another thing I always love. Good flirtatious, charisma-based warlock. Who doesn't? I mean, everybody thinks, oh yeah, the bard is going to be the one that's flirtatious, but come on. Normalize flirtatious warlocks. Everybody's going to be like, what in the world is wrong with Celeste? Okay. So, the next thing is it looks like because he is winking here, creates some lines around the eye. So we'll kind of put those in here a little bit. Okay. Okay. Nice and bright over on this side. And then it needs a little bit of a deeper shadow. Not too deep of a shadow, but definitely needs some more of a shadow over on this side. Yeah, more like that. That looks better. Now it looks like his eye is winking a little bit more rather than just closed. Good. Okay. So another thing about just my personal work style and everything, I like to work in grayscale first. I like to get everything in black and white so that I can read the values really easily without having color distract me too much. Because color greatly changes our perception of um, value. Certain colors appear brighter to us, which has always blown my mind. Okay, so let's see here. Go smaller. There we go. Okay. So if we start working on his neck here, figure out how I want this jawline to go. He's got his hair. Yeah, clean that up. Give him a little bit of a, was it Brad Pitt who has that like really defined jawline? I'm sure there's plenty of actors who have really defined jawline. Ah, It's like my favorite thing is just like having the layers and being able to turn it off and see all the progress that's been made. I'm like, yes. Oh, it makes me so happy. Okay. It's a little bit, yeah, a little bit mollified right there. Okay. And again, so where the light hits the face depends so much on the structure of an individual's face. So, um, like clearly with the references that I have for this character, I can see pretty frequently they've got pronounced cheekbones from everybody. Some of the sketches look like they had a little bit weaker of a jaw, not quite the absolute, square face. So maybe we'll pull that in just a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Looks like a pretty Aryan nose going through different people's styles. So, I'm sorry, baby. I have to change your jawline a little bit. I liked your jaw, but we want to make sure that it's in keeping with the character, not just in keeping with what I want to paint. I mean, if the commissioner looked at it and was like, "Oh, Celeste, I like that better." Well, that'd be one thing, but I try not to assume too much about what people are going to want with their characters. I like them. And then my commissioner mentions while I'm painting that they like the jaw as it is. So, okay, we will bring his jawline back out. There we go. Okay. It's the good thing about being able to have the commissioner watch while you paint. Definitely makes it a little bit easier. Okay. Yeah. Look at this boy. He's a good boy. You're a good boy, Talon. You get to be pretty. Alrighty. Okay. Keep going. Darken up this because that horn is going to be in the way. A little bit. Shouldn't be as bright as it is. That's a little better. This section up here is too bright. So part of it, while you're deciding, how the face is, obviously I want, with any portrait, I want the character's personality to come through a lot. I want that to be a really important portion of what happens. And so that is going to inform a lot of the decisions about the structure, the face, and whatnot. But another big thing is where we have the highest points of contrast in value. So the whitest white next to the blackest black, that's going to draw the most attention. And so with him having this one eye open, we definitely like having that brighter light right around it. To draw the eye to him there, which is always good. Get a little more like that. Okay. And then let's really quickly just kind of work on his ear a little bit. And go back to a sexy dude, always fun. Let's see here. Okay. So ears are super fun to paint. I have too much fun painting ears. It's sometimes a problem. I like ears. Very, very good. Ears and necks. Those are both, in my mind, a little bit underrated, but they should be greatly enjoyed. Look at you being all pretty, Talon. Look at you being all pretty. Yeah, so a lot of painting in a realistic or semi-realistic style is really just about detailing. Like I said, the majority of my time, I think the rule is you spend like 20% of the time actually making the painting and then 80% of the time just detailing the painting. And again, I'm a little bit crazy, so I really enjoy that ratio. I love getting to make all of that come alive. Yeah, that's looking pretty. Let's give a little bit more roundness up here. Not too much, but just a bit. Okay. And then darken those a tiny bit. Gonna darken this inner portion of the nose. So one of the other things that will happen with skin that's really interesting is usually anywhere you've got a shadow line that's really close to a light right next to it is you'll have a really nice deep saturation of color. So like if on the reference here, you can see this section right here has just a really nice saturation of color. And right along the line of the nose is where you'll see that a ton with portraits. You'll get just these beautiful like reds and burnt umbers and because again, that's the fact that skin is translucent. So partially what you're seeing is light coming off of like blood vessels and those really red, healthy tones that we have under the initial skin tone that we think of. Whether somebody's like an olive complexion or whether they're more of a nice deep chocolate or like a mocha or if people have a little bit more of a sallow tone, so they've got a lot of green undertones. And color theory with how the face is laid out is super interesting too, because so much of it has to do with where the skin is thinnest. We get more of the reds. So like around the eyes, you get a lot of reds and purples. Around the forehead, you tend to have more of a yellow tone undertones. And then down around the jawline, you'll get blue and a tiny bit of a green undertone. Now, I mean that's a little standardized for lighter, more Caucasian skin, but it's a nice rule of thumb that you can work with most skin tones to an extent, which is really nice. So, but we're not to color yet. But when we get there, that'll be really fun too. Basically, just portraits are really fun, and everybody should try them at some point because they're great. Look at this little boy trying to be all sultry. What are you doing, Talon? You being sultry? He's trying. We'll see if he succeeds. Okay. Let's figure out some of this lip shape, because that definitely needs to be cleared up a bit. a little bit of that. I think it's the nasal labial fold. All the great parts of the face. Ah, so many great face things. I could just do an entire channel about me talking about how great the face is. Although, of course, the irony is always that, clearly I'm going to hate my own face the most, though. Because, it's like artists. We always, unless you meet one of the few artists who are a little bit more on the narcissistic side, which can happen. I've met some artists. Most artists, though, that I know tend to be really, really dismissive of their own art, which is always sad. But it takes a long time, or it can take a really long time to get past that and to really love and appreciate your own art and your own style. And oh, look at her flirting. You keep flirting, babe. But yeah, we'll flirt over in that corner too. Yeah. Yeah. We're doing good there. I'm like, why does his mouth look so small? All right, because when you're shushing, you're pulling the corners of your lips in towards the middle. So it is going to look a little bit smaller than normal. Years ago now, probably 6 years ago maybe, I did a portrait of my mother for my dad's birthday. He had requested to have a portrait done of her. He always gets, unless I'm like dealing with something else and can't do art, but he usually gets a piece of art for his birthday every year. And so this one year, he wanted me to do a portrait of his wife, my mother. And so, like, we did this whole thing where she had to pick out, like, what picture she was going to be okay with me doing a portrait based off of, because she's also very hypercritical about her looks and whatnot. And so she picks this painting or this picture, and so I'm working on painting off of it and whatnot. And it was so funny though, because while I'm working on it, when I first finished the picture, my mom did not like it. She just felt she looked old, and a lot of just her own insecurities about how she looks in general kind of came out. What was funny though, because for probably 2 years, though, she kept telling me she just really didn't like the way that her smile looked. She just didn't feel that looked right. And so, I was continuing to paint and getting a little bit better all the time and whatnot. And so eventually I was like, okay, well, actually, it wasn't me. I was completely beaten over the head by both of my parents, who were like, let's fix this. Let's figure out how we can make, one, A, mom like the painting more, and B, figure out why that the smile keeps, just doesn't really read correctly. And so eventually I was like, fine, okay, you've beaten me up enough about this. Like, we'll do this. We'll look into it. And so I pull the file back open, and I'm looking at it, and we're all trying to figure out, what's wrong with it. Why did none of us really think that her smile looks convincing? And so what it ended up being is I had painted her mouth smiling, but I hadn't, even though I was working from a picture, so you would think, okay, you just copy the picture. Well, you still need to know and understand the facial structure and think about what muscles get activated, or or relax depending on uh, an expression. Well, her mouth was smiling, but her cheeks, which need to pull to actually create that shape of the mouth, weren't bunched on over her cheekbones. So the upper muscles of her cheeks and stuff looked too flat. And especially because I work with, more of a photorealism style, um, it hit that uncanny valley so that all of our brains were looking at this portrait going like, yep, yep, it's a great portrait. Something is very, very wrong. And once I was able to identify it, um, and I kind of repainted that section and then had everybody look at it and like, hey, what do you think? Did that fix it? Um, while my mother still doesn't exactly like it just because she, has her own self-esteem issues, she doesn't dislike it because of the smile now, which I always thought was really funny. Um, and although the other day my dad was trying to convince me that we should go back in again and do more more work on it to further fix it. So apparently that painting is going to have to come up again. Apparently I have not made my way free of the mother portrait that was never perfect, which kind of just makes me laugh. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So this section of his ear would be brighter in there as it kind of comes out. And then this section is going to be a little bit darker to create that fold. And then it's lighter out on the edge. Ears are great. Ears are another really wonderful place on the face that you get just beautiful saturated colors. Really, so pretty saturations. Yeah, we need the nice dark around that portion of the ear. A little bit. And a little bit better. Yes. Okay, and then let's outline it just a tiny bit so we can kind of figure out the shape we're going for here. Yeah, that's better. So, yeah. Let's see, what other weird random stories can I tell you guys while I am painting? Well, I don't know. I kind of wish there were people like asking questions, but someday I will actually paint frequently enough that people will know about these things ahead of time and they'll want to hang out. But that will take time, and that's okay. I guess another thing here, we'll talk about myself. Another thing that I'm definitely working on right now is like accepting that, building a fan base and just a community around your art takes time. And you don't want to rush that, because there's really important steps along the way. And I was talking with an art buddy of mine who's been going through some pretty rough shit with people just being just assholes like they do. And it just makes me realize that, yeah, my art isn't very well known, but it's a blessing in disguise, because fuck, man, like, I don't have to deal with people being assholes about my art and whatnot. And I can just kind of take my time to get to that point where people know and appreciate my art. Um, and it kind of goes back to the whole issue of really getting to a point where you're doing art for yourself, and it's not being forced to create a stand-in of validation from other people, that like your art is about you. His earlobe is too high. That's what the problem is. Let's fix that. So one way to fix issues like this is you can do edit, copy special, copy merged. So what that does is, even though I have 4 different layers here, it copies all 4 at the same time. And then when I do edit, transform, I can pull that whole earlobe down, and suddenly deselect, bam. See? Now the bottom of the ear hooks up right about there with the nostril, and the top hooks right up about the pupil, which is good. Okay. Which means that this other ear over here will need to fix that too. Just do that real quick before I forget about it. Paste. Oops, cancel. Edit, pre-transform. That's a bit better. Much better. Okay, and then I can merge that down. There it is. Yeah, see? Good, good, good. I'm getting there. Okay, I am going to probably bring the stream to close in maybe another 20 minutes or so, because that'll have been going for 2 hours, which is a nice bit of time to stream. And then after that I can stop talking and put on music. There we go. Okay. So let's sneak over and work on some of this hair. And start some hair. Okay. Pop that there for a second. Open up that one. There's the hair again. Okay. Righty. But yeah, my brother has had snakes for years and years now. He used to breed corn snakes. And now he's married and he's got 2 kids and 2 cats and 2 dogs and 22 chickens and a wife who, needs a fair amount of attention from him. She's a real sweet lady, but they've got 2 kids who are both under 2 years old, and so they're at a point in their life where there's a lot of responsibilities going on and whatnot. And so my brother had 5 ball pythons, and one of the ball pythons was gravid, so she had eggs, and he was just planning on just throwing the eggs away once they were laying, which I couldn't, man. I was like, what? Why wouldn't you at least throw them in a little incubator? You don't have to do much of anything with them. Just at least give them a chance. And so I now have. I had started out taking just 2 of his ball pythons about 3 weeks ago, just because they were being really finicky eaters, and he was having a really hard time getting them to actually eat consistently, so they weren't growing, and lots of just lots of little problems like that and whatnot. And so I was like, well, I can take them and see what I can do, as far as just getting them to eat a little bit more consistently, and maybe get some weight on them. And then when he told me that he wasn't planning on incubating the eggs, I was like, well, okay, fine. I'll take Ka, it's her name, is the snake. I'll take her home and I'll see if, I can. Me and my dad have built incubators before, and so we're like, we can probably just do an emergency little incubator build. That shouldn't be, too hard. And we can see if we can at least, save the clutch, and see if we can get them to hatch. I mean, if they don't hatch, or if they, don't make it or whatever, it is what it is. But at least we will have tried, which makes me, feel a lot better about it, because I always feel bad if you don't even try. Like, looks like he doesn't have too much of a sideburn. Okay. Cool, cool. Alrighty. So she's in a tank right next to where I paint. I'm just waiting, checking her every day to see when she's gonna lay those eggs, because she got at least 5 that I've felt. So she should be dropping them any day now, though. So that'll be super exciting. Always, always neat to have little babies, little baby animals. There we go. Get some hairline there. Makes me feel better. And then let's lighten up this hair piece here, because that's far too dark with the line art underneath. Yeah, so that'll definitely be interesting to see how it goes, see if we're able to get them to hatch and whatnot. Always hopeful. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, and then flip the whole image around. Another thing that's really smart to do while you're painting, just to make sure that you know, you haven't gotten too used to looking at it from one direction, and that your symmetry, especially with faces, hasn't gotten warped, is to flip the whole canvas horizontally, um, which is always a very, very good practice. And like, I'm noticing that his horn, this horn over here, definitely needs to be a little bit trimmed in. Kind of switch its angle a little bit there so that it makes more sense. A little bit more like that, I think. That'd be a little better. Yeah, I like that. Looking good. Darken it up a little bit for the tips. Just, let me see, here's that. Clean that up a little bit more. Nah. Let's try this really quick. Let's take this antler, or this horn, because I like that one better. And take out some of the extra. Copy special, copy merged, paste. And then we will flip that. Edit, flip horizontally. A little bit further again. Okay, so if we line this up just about the eye, a little bit further in, we'll erase some of it. Okay, I think that'll be better. So, oh, whoops. What's that doing? What's that doing? Okay. So if we paint over the one underneath, we can kind of see what we think about that. There we go. That's better. And then we just erase the portion of the base where this bang comes over it, and voila, much better. Yeah, I like that a lot better. Okay. And like, there's no reason that you have to work with layers. I tend to work with a relatively small layer, amount of layers, but I still like to have them, mainly just because I can go like, oh, yeah. Like, it's just very satisfying to me to like see where something was and then to see where I fixed it too, and I'm like, yes, that is much better in my opinion. So it always helps me feel like I make the right decision. And obviously, you know, I wouldn't recommend copying over a finished antler just because antlers do grow. Antlers and horns both grow with you know, a unique growth pattern and everything, and so you want to keep that level of spontaneity that does happen with real life. You know, not make things look too polished, too perfect. Even your face isn't perfectly symmetrical, and it can look really weird if you do too much symmetry, which is always an interesting thing to see happen. little bit better. Got that a little bit in more. There. Like that. So now if I flip it back, image rotation, flip. Actually, one second, I need to, darn it. I feel like I need to rotate it a little bit yet. Transform. Okay, let's try that. Deselect. Yeah, okay, that's better. That I will call good. And then, 20 minutes later I'll be like, nope, nope, still not good enough. And I'll fix it again. But that is my weird process, so. Okay. And again, erase out that little bit where his hair goes over it. There. Okay. And save. Looking good. Okay. Well, it has been a very fun stream, and I hope you guys enjoyed.